Hey, loves. Welcome to Love Marlene 411. Um, thank you so much for joining me for this chat and discussion today. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. I guess I got some things that I want to say, and of course, as always, I'm always open to hear from you all as well, what you have to say too. So, welcome to the Sip and Chat. I really do appreciate each and every one of you for being here for this chit chat. It's really appreciated. Hey, puzzle pieces, how are you doing? Welcome. I really have to say, for me, to talk about this, it shows how much growth that I have. It shows how I've grown as a woman because before I could never have a conversation like this to talk about, you know, do you accept yourself? Because for me, it was always something like I never even thought about those things. I didn't even know who I was and what I was about. I was too busy being jealous of other people. I was too busy worried about what other people thought about me for me to even spend even a moment thinking about myself. I really truly believe that the majority of the population doesn't spend a moment thinking about themselves and learning to reflect and heal and work on themselves, and that's why they're so miserable and angry. And I feel like it's time to have more and more of these conversations, not just as women, as human beings, because they always talk about gender things. Oh, that's what women do. Oh, that's what men do. No, that's what human beings do. At the end of the day, that's the most important thing. We need to start treating one another better as human beings. So I can start off this discussion, talking about, do you accept yourself? Um, for from the time I was probably I would say 2 years old, I really had a really low sense of self because of the people in my life. And I can say the people in my life, they didn't know any better. I know that now that I've grown as a woman, but they really didn't know who they were. They didn't know what they were about. They weren't trying to improve or be better because it was not an option for them. It was not something that was important for them to experience personal growth because it just wasn't something that was done. Nobody did that. It was easy to be broken because almost everybody that you knew was broken. Almost everybody that you knew was dysfunctional. The majority of people out there have never put in the work to find out what they're about, what they like, what they didn't like, what are the things that hurt them, getting into the things that, they need to work on and make changes. And I say all of this because I think it's so important for us to talk about, our self and where you are in the journey of your life. And do you even like yourself? Do you accept yourself? Yeah, that's what we're going to stay. We're going to stay on the accepting ourself part. And I do think that it's a requirement. I feel like it should be a requirement of every human being for you to have to go through and think about your whole life course from the time you were born to who you are today, and think about your struggles, painful things, everything that has hurt you, and to make a summation of your entire life. Am I where I want to be? And do I even like myself? all of those things. And I think that the more that I started to put things down, you know how like you do the pros and the cons of your whole life. And I found that there was more cons on that list. And that's when I realized I really did need some help, because when you've been hurt and so broken and taken apart, and just everybody around you is just so negative, and it's just such a dark atmosphere, that it's really hard for you to get into being a positive person. Like, that's not even something that I even thought it was something possible. How do you become a positive person when everything around you was negative? So when I get to the part where I talk about, do you accept yourself? I really think that you have to get to where you start talking about, your story, your journey of your life, because you can't learn to accept yourself, for the woman or the man that you are, until you start going through your life and saying, I am not a summation of everything that has happened to me. I am wonderful just because I exist, just because, I'm still here, just because I've been through a lot of things. And I think it takes for you going through so many hard things, so many dark things in your life, that I feel like there's nowhere to go but up. That's where I had to be in my life. I had to be at such a low place to say that I could only go up from here. And to anybody who's ever been through a lot of hard times, anybody who's ever had lots of struggles, which I think is everybody, don't look at your life just at the dark things. I want you to also to look at some of the amazing things that you have been through, some of the things that you have done, and the talents that you have, and the gifts that you have, and all of the times, all the reasons that you had in your life to give up, but you chose not to. I think that really shows really who you really are at the end of the day. And I had to say to myself, like, after everything that you've gone through, everything that you've endured, and you're still here. So I'll just say, probably around the age of, I would say maybe 7 or 8 years old, really young, right? This was the time in my life where I honestly really hated myself, and I hated everything about myself. I hated, that my eyes were larger than everybody else's. I hated, the sound of my own voice. I hated the way that I looked. Everything. There wasn't anything positive that I could say about myself. And saying that now, it saddens me, but it also shows me how much I've grown. But during those times, being 7 and 8 years old, who you are is wrapped up in who everybody else says you are. And that's why I always say all the time, it's so important that if you have young people, that you are in charge of, their care, or anybody, that is really important to you, to be really careful about the things that you say to them. And for a long time, I really didn't understand that the opinions of my family, and all of the times that they had said such mean, hurtful things to me, really was affecting me. And it was making me so sad to know that I hated myself. I hated everything about myself. I hated the way I looked. I hated the way I talked. I never thought that anybody could ever like me because of the people in my life, and the way they treated me, how they talked to me. Because if you always have people around you in your life and they don't talk to you in a nice way, they always make you feel like, scum. make you feel unworthy, make you feel unloved, you know, like you're a waste of their time. To always grow up with those type of feelings, it is hard for you to turn into feeling like you are somebody. And it was a long road. I can say that, from the time I was 7. I remember that vividly, being in elementary school, and all of the other girls would be in their little outfits and dresses, and I used to always look at myself and say, look at me, I'm scrawny and I'm this, and look at my eyes and look at this. But instead of embracing the uniqueness inside of myself, because of what I used to be told, as a little girl, it affected me from that time period. I used to always tell myself, I'm not smart. I can't do anything. I'm ugly. And I took that all the way throughout my whole life. And I didn't even realize that I was taking it from my whole life, from the age of 7, when some traumatic things happened to me that, I'm going to talk about, in later podcasts. But yeah, at 7 years old, I I really hated myself. And it was a long time. I don't think it got to be until, I would say, probably 20, 22, 23 years old before I started to think that that's not a good idea to think that way about yourself. But when you think that way for so long, it's hard to let yourself change. It's almost something, I could say, almost something impossible, because when you've been so sad, so broken, so hurt, so miserable for a long time, it's hard for you to feel like, is that even possible for me? Is it even possible for me to be a person to be loved, much less even think about loving myself? So I just wanted to reach out to, all of you loves, and to ask you the same question. Do you accept yourself? What do you think about yourself? What has been the journey for you in your life? Have you been in a place where you felt, sad, in a dark space, feel unloved? Hey, realist one, how are you doing? Have you ever been in that situation? Have you ever felt that way? I can say, yeah, 100%. And it sometimes you feel like shame when you grow when you grow through that. You feel shame. I feel shame now because I've changed, because I've matured, because I've grown, because I've learned self love. But it's hard sometimes for me to be completely honest and to say, I hated myself. I mean, I really, really hated myself. And because I really hated myself, it caused me to like want to sabotage everything in my life. It's one of the reasons why I didn't care about schooling. All I ever wanted to do was just hang out, because I felt like it was no purpose for me, because I never felt like I was smart, because I was always told, that I wasn't smart. Yeah, or not that I was told I wasn't smart. I was told I wasn't as smart as, other people that we knew in our life. So if you're always compared to somebody else, then you can never be as good as them. You can never look as nice as them. You can never be, all of those things. It really affects your self-esteem. And until you start taking your power back and your control, and not letting other people get inside your head and be the evaluation of what you think about yourself, until you start changing that and want to improve and be better. For such a long period of time, I was so bitter. I was mad at the entire world. mad at not just the entire world. I was mad at my higher power too. I was mad at everything that exists. Like, why what am I here? Why was I made to live such a miserable existence? And I had to understand that it was it was in my power, in my control, to make myself happy. And I think that a lot of times we don't get there in our life until we get there. It wasn't until I got tired of being angry, and when I got tired of making excuses, when I got tired of feeling sorry for myself, when I got tired of living off of other people's love and learning that I needed to learn to love my own self. It wasn't until those times that I started to feel good about myself. And so, yeah, I didn't know about accepting myself until I learned to stop listening to all of the white noise on the outside. It was, this is way before, the social media stuff. When I was growing up, we didn't have that social media stuff. All there was books and TV and magazines. So I would look at those things, like I would look at the magazines and, like, I don't look like any of these people on the TV in school. I was like, I don't look like any of these people. I don't talk like any of these people. I don't act like any of these people. But I had to learn how to formulate my own, like, what did I think about myself as a human being. And it's a hard realization to come to grips with all of that, to process it in your mind that, for so long I had been miserable because of myself. I had been miserable because of myself. I had chose that. And it's not until you come to terms with that, like, until you stop blaming other people, that, yeah, people in your life do things to you that say mean and hurtful, disrespectful, the full thing, everybody in your life, regardless of who they were, parents, siblings, friends, schoolmates, workmates, who you've been in relationships with, all of that, regardless of what they have said to you and about you. What have you done on the inside of you? What kind of work have you done for yourself, to improve your own self and make your own self better? And it took a long time for me to even want to see that, because it's so much easier to blame everybody in your life. It's easier to blame, it was my parents, it was my siblings, it was a person I'm in a relationship with, and you want that. Yeah, a part of that, it could be the majority of your life, that could have been them. But when are you going to let yourself release that and let that go, and start defining for your own self what you're about? So let's add Nexie to the show.
Hey, Marlene.
Hey,
What are we talking about?
we're talking about, do you accept yourself?
Oh, wow. That's a loaded one. Do I accept myself?
Mhm.
I feel um I feel that sometimes we do, right? Partially accept ourselves when we don't know really what we are accepting, right? I don't know if I'm making sense yet, but just bear with me. And that was my talking about my journey, and that was me. I was partially accepting myself for who I was, um, but at the same time not accepting myself because I didn't like who I was. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, that
Okay.
makes that makes so much sense. And I think that's why I wanted to have this conversation, because I felt for so long like I was going crazy, because it was like I loved myself and hated myself at the same time.
Exactly. I didn't per se didn't get to the point where I hated myself, but I disliked myself very much at the same time that I liked myself. Like there were so many things that I I wasn't doing and that I was allowing others to do to me that make me not like myself very much, right? Not accept and accept. There were things I loved about me that I was like, yes. So that little push allowed me to live for a very long time with a partial acceptance of myself.
Mm. Whoa, that filled up my cup right there.
And you more than anybody understands this, that it's a partiality that at the same time doesn't allow you to accept yourself at 100% without working on yourself.
Mhm.
And so that, you know how you said when you were little that people that the things that were going on in your head was because of a lot of people not always pointing out the bad in you, right?
Right.
The big eyes, or she's so scrawny, or her voice, or this, or maybe the color of your skin, your hair, right? Things like that.
Mhm.
And a lot of those people are doing this unintentionally because I don't think they know how much damage they're doing to the child in you, or the people that are saying this to. So for me, it was the same way, Marlene. There were so many things that were pointed out at me as to, oh, she's so smart at doing certain mischiefs, right? Why aren't you that smart in school? You're good at breaking things apart to see how they work. Why don't you break a subject apart and find out how it get put together and stuff like that? Or so and so doesn't waste so much toothpaste, or so and so doesn't wear her shoes out the way you do. So then you start thinking, are my legs wrong? Oh, maybe because my legs are crooked, right? So when people are pointing out these negativities in you, which is the part that I love myself, right? I like myself, like I said, partially. But when people are you thinking that you are okay the way you are, but people are start pointing out these parts of you that are negative, then you start connecting that with, oh, maybe because I'm not really good at school. Maybe that's why this person doesn't love me, right? Whoever says, you know, look at yourself. Your hair is all messy all the time. Your clothes are all messy all the time. And so you start saying, maybe if I'm not messy anymore, this person is gonna start to love me, right? Maybe if I'm good in school, like super super good, this person is gonna start loving me again. So by you trying to acquire that love from those particular people that are putting you down, you start hating yourself, because that's the half acceptance that I'm talking about.
Yep. Yep. And I'm so glad that you said that because I struggled with that for so long. And when you want to say it, but you don't know the words, and you said exactly what I had been thinking in my mind for so many years and didn't know how to formulate the words. Yeah.
Yeah, and to me it was more like, okay, like I thought I was perfect, right? I was good, I was smart and everything, but then people point those things out, and then you start self-doubting, right? Oh, maybe she's right. Maybe I'm not that smart. Maybe what so and so said that I'm smart, maybe it's not true, because you want to win their love so badly. You want them to see you. You don't want them to see your imperfections. You want them to see how good you are, how loving you are towards others, how amazing you are at maybe building puzzles super fast, or how good you are at riding your bike. But you cannot, those people are so putting this negativities in you that you start feeling like that, like half accepted, because they start putting that your imperfections according to what they think is not what you think. It's what they have said to you that starts giving you the negativity, like that doubt.
Yep. You start doubting, and I would say that I was always doubting myself because I was empty inside. And it wasn't until I started to learn to fill up that empty space with my own personal affirmations, and until I started to make myself full, everything else, that's why everything would always affect me. And until I started to fill up my own all that void, then that's when I started to feel good about myself, is because I started saying who I was instead of letting other people fill up the empty space inside of me.
Mm, exactly. And if but you see, when you're younger, or yeah, younger, and before you seek the help that you need to repair your brokenness, when you're at that point, which is a very trying point in your life, and there are many years sometimes that you have gone on like that, right, with that rejection, with people always putting you down for one or another thing, so you start seeing your entire whole, your entire self as damaged. Maybe there's nothing good about me, really. No matter what I do, these people just don't give me a break. So maybe I am defective. Maybe everything about me is wrong. But
Yeah.
until you seek that help, right? And you and I have gone through this, until you seek that help that you need, you start realizing that these people are projecting, that
Hmm.
those things that they say are negative about you, it's actually the most positive thing about you. Your beautiful eyes, that
Yeah.
beautiful nappy hair,
Yeah.
that
Every every
sweetness.
everybody used to, and that's the crazy part. Now I can say now, puzzle pieces, I can say that now because of where I am now in my life. But the things that people used to hate the most about me, I'm telling you, I got bullied relentlessly, and I say relentlessly, for my voice. People always say, "Oh, your voice is so squeaky, you're so annoying, why don't you just shut up? I hate to hear you talk." And now to have a platform where people will say they come here to hear my voice, it makes me laugh because I was like, you guys have no idea, no idea at all. But yeah, that's what it is. Until you learn to accept the things about yourself, all of the flaws, your idiosyncrasies, everything. Receive all of it. Until you receive it, you're gonna make your own self miserable and allow yourself to be unhappy when nobody should. But
Exactly.
yeah,
Nobody should.
but
Nobody
it's not
should.
but it's not until you get there. You don't get there until you get there, until, like, for me, I'm just speaking for myself. For myself, I had to get all the way down until I was at zero, where I was empty, like there was nothing. There was nothing. And I had to get to zero for me to get back to 100.
And that is actually the best way I have heard that being put, because if you think about it, if you're all the way down to zero, then building up is going to be full of positivity, right? You have already gone down to zero on all of the negative. So coming back up, it's up to you how you build yourself. What I had to start telling myself was, well, that person says, you have this and this negative thing about you, but then again, with that set of feet that I mess up shoes so fast, is how I run super fast as well,
Mhm.
you know. And so with that, I took all the negative that they were giving me, and I started putting it into making an effort to make it a positive. So how some people say, "Oh, the squeaky little mouse voice."
Mhm.
I heard somebody said that somebody called her that. That squeaky little mouse voice of her bothers me, right?
Hmm.
What these people, they get bothered by that voice because maybe they have had someone in their lives that were trying to be nice or good to them that sounded just like you, and they didn't want to accept that. So it's a you problem is how I make it. But for me, Marlene, until I started taking all of the negative energy that they were giving me, turn it into positive, by reinforcing myself to think the total opposite of what these people were saying. Until then, I came out with a bang, you know, and say, I'm not going to allow them to hurt me like that anymore. I took my power back.
Yeah,
And
but
until then, uh huh.
yeah, but the whole thing about that is that it's hard to take your power back when you don't. This is where I had to start. I didn't even know I had power.
Yep, exactly. My
That's where I
therapist,
was in that much of in a dark space that I didn't even know I possessed power. I felt like I had no light, like there was
it,
nothing but darkness.
and that to me, that happened too. It happened to me too. And my therapist helped me find my voice and my power. Not by him giving it to me, but by giving me the tools
Oh, your mic went out. Puzzle pieces.
and get there, right?
Your mic went
Marlene?
out for a second, so I don't know what you
Oh,
said.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, I know I'm telling you, my internet at this hour, it gets super crazy. No, I said that for me, I didn't know that I had my voice that I could use for reason without having to offend anyone, right? Or make things worse. So my therapist is the one that helped me find my voice and get my power back, not by doing it himself, but by giving me the right tools to work on it so that I can reclaim that. Because, as he said, that was something for me to reclaim. They only had the ability to bother me if I allow them to do that.
Yeah, and I think that that's the biggest point, that's the biggest point about everything is that you have to be in that space where you're ready to make changes. I can say like I knew for I would say about 3 or 4 years that I needed to change, that negative thinking, but like I was saying, because everybody if everybody around you is negative, if you've been thinking negative for a long time, and if you don't have any self esteem, it's hard for you to even try to make changes because you don't even think you should make changes. You kind of think that it's normal to be negative, you know?
You don't, you're not given the option of being positive. So making changes doesn't even come to you. You know what I mean? Like your life has been so negative up to this point, or when you're seeking the help that you need, that you don't know that you have that option. I don't know if that happened to you.
Yeah, it has.
So you have to learn that you do have options. You have to learn that you do have the ability to seek a better life, a better outcome of everything that has been taken from you.
Yeah. And
You
but the whole thing, like my issue always has been how do you get up and start brand new when you're so broken. And that was my thing, is like how do you take one step forward when you're like flat on your face? You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but I was at that space where I was like, I guess you could say crawling. If you're crawling, how do you stand?
and again, it's not easy, right? It's not an easy. First of all, it's not an easy step to take. Um, if it had not been required for me to go to therapy, Marlene, I don't think I would have ever gone to, because according to me, I was not broken. Everybody else was
Mm.
around me, right? I was okay. I was cool. I I had lived this long, so I mean, look at me, right? Look at me and hear me roar, because I got this.
Yep.
But
We're perfect, right?
oh, I was perfect. I'm still am, but that's another topic, Marlene. But you don't know. Um, you're so in your head with all this dislike of self, dislike of others, because what they're giving you as you get older, you're projecting it back on them, right? So you're still trying to win the love of those people, or the acceptance of all those people that treated you the way they did. You still want to go there. You're still trying to. So you're so broken, you're so overloaded on self hatred or self pity that you don't see a way out. You don't see any other reason for you to be here in this planet.
Mhm. Yep.
And it's a
You're so busy. You're so you're in the darkness that you don't even know it's possible for that light exists until somebody just says one day, just turn on the light switch.
it's right there, right? It's like
Yeah,
right
it's
next to
right there.
you.
It's always been there. When
Yeah.
my therapist told me that, like, you don't have to be, you have to make those type of choices, but it's not that you don't know those things, but when you've been hurt, when so many things, like when uh I don't even know how to formulate the words, but when you've been through so much and you've just been browbeat and hurt and broken, this happened and this happened and this happened and that trauma, and it's just like it's
You
too much.
Yeah, you've
It's
been
too
pushed
much.
down so low down that barrel. So low that you don't see the switch, even though it's right next to you, probably a couple of steps.
Mhm.
But the fear, because you've been pulled so low, the fear of taking those couple of steps when you have been disappointed over and over and over again, they're fearful. You can't take those two steps because you doubt yourself, right? You don't know. Now, for me, it's the ability to block everything that I see.
Oh, your mic went out. We'll wait for her mic to come back. Your
It
mic
wouldn't
is out.
resurface, right? I'm dealing with it. I'm so sorry. Can you hear me, Marlene?
Yep, it just came back.
Can you? Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm telling you, this internet is crazy.
Yeah,
So for me, I had mastered the ability to block everything that was bothering me, that had been done to me. I had mastered it so well that I didn't feel that every time like a thought will come up or a memory, I will push it down, right? But that was creating so much stress on me, on my person, that I started like um, projecting all of that self pity or self dislike to the point where I was losing my hair. You know,
Mm,
I was breaking out. There was so much that I was holding in that I was becoming unhealthy. So those are the things that sometimes, it only takes one step to get to a good place. But you have been beaten down so low that it takes forever for your mind to think of that one step and for your body to take it.
exactly. It's like your mind and your body is just like no more. Like I can't take any more. Not one more thing.
And this is why, Marlene, I always tell people that it's so important that you watch what you say to others, especially children, because this is something that it doesn't happen when you're an adult. it begins when at least for our cases, right? It began when we were little. So I always tell people, if you have nothing positive to say, so the best thing for you to do is don't say anything at all. If you
Yep.
see a child and you don't like the dress or whatever, you don't tell that little child that she looks ugly on that dress.
Mm-hmm. Or,
You
or
know what I
or
mean?
or or tell a little child they're scrawny,
Mm-hmm.
or they're ugly, or all words like that. They cut deeper than a knife.
Yes,
Yeah.
very much so. And the outcome of this is what you and I went through, right? All the problems we have had growing up with our self consciousness, that we don't address things a certain way because we have been frightened out of our wits if we ever spoke out of turn.
Hmm.
We had no chances of actually arguing and something, not arguing, but clearing out certain drama that was going on because we were made to be silent. So no matter what, we weren't teach or we weren't taught those things. How to communicate better, how to ask for your needs to be met, how to tell someone, you're hurting my feelings, because all those things are taboo. We don't talk about feelings. What do you mean feelings? You're always in your feelings. Everybody's different. Every child is different. So I always tell people, be careful on what you say to a child. You
Yeah,
know,
and to let everybody, be their own individual. And I can say that coming from a big family, I think that was my issue, because I had so many siblings. It was like, I'm not, you're not like this person, you're not like this person. I was like,
mm,
there's a lot of us. I
mm-hmm,
like, why do people always tell one another you're not like this person and that person? I feel like one of the most harmful things that you can ever tell somebody. Why not say, I'm so grateful that you're who you are.
mm-hmm. Exactly. Why do I have to be like that person?
Mm.
That's his own. That he's his own, or she's his own, her own person. It
Right.
has nothing to do with me. Like, why do parents do that? It's something that I've always like had in my mind. Like, why do they do this? Or why, your brother is so much smarter than you.
Hmm.
Look at your sister, straight A's. Ha, I wish you were like
Yeah.
that. Those
So
little
so so much
words.
so much prettier, so much more handsome. Yeah.
No, or those little words, right? I wish you were like that. That on itself is saying everything you are is nothing she liked, nothing she wished for. So you're damaged goods, and those are the things that I'm saying. They don't surface right at the beginning of life. They surface as you start living your adult life. That's
Hmm.
when all those things, because life hits you, right? And the fact that they haven't taught you how to navigate this thing called life, that's when all of those things surface. They resurface to put you even deeper into a depression, a doubt, of you able being able to handle your life. So we have to be mindful of what we say to others.
Yeah, we have to be mindful what we say to others, and I think probably another conversation that I'm writing down right here, that we need to start thinking about what we say to ourselves.
There you go. Somebody taught me that today.
Okay.
About not to call myself an ugly red tomato, but a very beautiful, beautiful red tomato. And it's true, sometimes we are our biggest critics, right? We say things to ourselves that we're like, why am I thinking like this? Why am I putting myself down? I know I can do this. So why am I doubting myself? Why am I bringing up, certain things in my head of projects that probably I started and never finished? But this I'm going to, so I can do this. Why do you start doubting? But it's, again, it comes down to childhood.
Hmm. And it's all of those things that one of the things that I learned when I went through therapy is the reason why I stopped. I never, I would start but never finish tasks, like procrastinate on doing it, is because I was always told that when like every time I would show, like, go, like you're a kid, you run, you're
Mm-hmm.
excited, and you go tell them, and they're like, oh, that's ugly. That's ugly. Why did you do that? Or
Mm-hmm.
that looks a mess, whatever. So if you always had felt like whatever you do was never going to be received well, you feel like, why even try? Why even finish?
Mm-hmm.
And I never thought that I was doing that all along, but you take it into your adulthood. You really do.
Mm-hmm.
And I started like, why can't I finish tasks? And you're not thinking this stems from when I was 7 years old and I showed a picture to somebody, you know. You don't think about those things, but
You sure don't.
if you really don't go back and fix those things as to the reason why you aren't doing certain things, then you won't finish them. You have to get to the root cause of everything.
There you go. And that's important too. And going back to that, you had a lot of siblings, but I had a lot of siblings too. But then you add the you come to, your parent, one of your parents, and you say, "Oh, look the grades I got." And then they tell you, "Oh, so and so's daughter, she's never had a B in her report card. Straight A's." And you're looking at it, what do I care about so and so's daughter? I'm showing you mine, right? Yeah, there's a B or two, but what does that mean? Why should I compare myself to her? Or why are you comparing myself to her? I'm showing you that I'm trying my hardest to get here, and apparently it doesn't make a difference to you because you probably want that person to be your daughter instead of me.
Yeah, or they see something that, okay, for example, something that comes naturally to you, it
Mm,
does not come naturally to me. So say you have a gift
mhm,
of making something, and then of course if I try to do it, it's not going to be as good as you because that's not my gift. And
mhm.
that's one of the things that I had to learn, is instead of trying to say to somebody else, you're not like that person, look at a person's talents. What do they do? What are they good at? And encourage that. And I believe that more people need to learn to work on that. And it's hard for us as human beings to see the good in people because we're judgmental by nature.
We sure
So,
are. But
yeah.
we have the ability to stop that, Marlene.
Hmm.
Even though it is by nature, we can stop that. It's up to us. And going back to the comparison, I never understood why
Uh-oh, your mic went out again. And she'll be
for
right back.
something that I
Okay.
wanted to do. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I am so sorry. I'm trying. I'm trying. Okay. I'm moving around so that you can, but I cannot get too close to Mr. Wolf because
Yeah. I
he
understand.
he went back to being a wolf again.
Yeah.
So I never understood, Marlene, why cooking wasn't something, an ability that I could master. Right? I was always like, oh yeah, I learned how to. Yeah, I'll do it next time. Yeah, on our next cookout, I'm gonna try to do that. Right? I'm gonna try. Yeah, I'll probably try it then. I'll probably try it then. So it was never something that I was very happy to try. We had our cookouts with my sisters and extended family, but I remember when I was little that we were having a Christmas party at our house. I was probably like 9 years old, I think, and I came up with. My sister gave me a task. She gave us options of what we wanted to do, and I ended up picking a dish. I to this day don't remember what it was, the dish per se, but I made it. And I made it so proudly. My sister was like, "Oh my God, it looks beautiful. You're, oh, it's going to be the hit of the table." And I'm over there preparing, Marlene, for everybody to praise me on my dish.
Hmm.
And we sit down and everything. And my aunt, this lady who was very, very negative, they come in, they sit down and everything. And then my sister was like, "Well, try this, try that, try that." And then it got to my dish, and I'm in anticipation, waiting for them to say, "Oh my God, this is brilliant." My aunt spit it out. "Oh my God, what is this? And
Mm.
it's not seasoned correctly. Oh my God." And that particular experience on that table, that disappointment I felt, the hurt that I felt because I had put everything into my dish, I never ever got that out of my head. And I didn't understand why, as I started growing up, wasn't too keen on like cooking or doing, making my own dishes or whatever, until I started therapy. I started seeing that I had probably taken that to heart, that I wasn't good enough to be a good cook, right?
No, and I think also I could add to that because nobody came to your rescue. See,
Mm-hmm.
the whole thing about it is when a few things like that happen, I always had my dad. My dad always came to my rescue, even when something wasn't right. My dad always protected me, and like when somebody, he'd be like, "No," I was like, "She does good. Leave her alone." And I think maybe because nobody said, whatever. It's like
Yeah,
it's good. We enjoyed it, and I think that that would have changed everything if you had somebody that had came to your rescue.
that is exactly what it was. That nobody said anything. They just looked at each other, and my cousin second that. "Oh my God, yes. What is this? What did you put? Sugar instead of salt?" Or blah blah. And I'm looking at him like, "What do you mean sugar instead of salt?" I didn't get what she meant, but what she meant, that the whole plate was completely wrong. That I had not done it the right way, and nobody said anything. My dad had not arrived to the table yet, like he was getting a plate, so he didn't hear, but my sisters did. But out of respect for my aunt, they said nothing,
Mm.
right? So
Yeah,
as I
because
started,
because back then you weren't allowed to
yeah,
disrespect older people. Even if you
there you
didn't
go.
like something, you had to take it.
There you go. And my sisters just stood quiet. And I got out of, I got up and left the table crying because I was so excited. I was anticipating, I was looking at their faces like, yeah, they're going to love my dish. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm going to start cooking from now on, whatever. And I didn't. I just left it at that. And I started, when I started working on myself, I started talking to my therapist, and I started going on and on my I should say this, on my recovery, because it was my recovery, Marlene. Um, I started going on and on with that. I started thinking like, okay, wait, why did I stop cooking? Or why don't I like the kitchen? What is it about it? And I started thinking, and it was that particular time. And I was little, I was 9 years old. So to me, words like that, or things that people say to you, especially a child, are very, very impactful. They can be greatly a damage to that particular child. Even if to you they're just words, to this child is their identity, their entire heart and soul, because that's what a child is. They're all heart and soul.
Yeah, and the whole thing about it is that I had to. We each have to learn because I can say I will just say for myself because I can't say everybody because not everybody had a traumatic childhood or a dysfunctional childhood, but I can say to those who did, the things that you went through, you have to understand that people just operated at the level that they were at, and that's what helped me a lot is when I had to stop being upset with other people because they didn't possess what I needed. They're dealing with their own issues the best way they could, and that's what they had to serve you. A person can't pull from something that they don't possess, and that started to help me a lot when I realized like I would blame people and they did this and they said that, but also I had to start learning to have some sympathy for them because that makes me sad that look at the age they were and they didn't get it yet, and look at the age I am and I've already gotten it. So that
That
helped
is
me a lot. that helped me a lot.
That is beautiful, and it's true, right? And you don't, but as a child, you don't see that, right? You don't see that you're gonna grow, you're gonna be okay, you're gonna get out of this. And I don't know about you, Marlene, but as a young girl, you start developing, right? And then people start being negative about your body's changes, and that was another thing, getting comfortable with the changes I was going through, and that made me self-conscious too,
Well,
because they point
Nexie, I
out.
don't want I don't want you to go into any further into that because that's going to be a topic for next week. We're going to talk about our body image.
Which is good thing I brought it up. Yeah,
Mhm.
but I'm saying, those things should be very, very carefully worded for children, right? All of those things, not just the cooking, or the that you're not smart enough, that you're not good enough. It should be things, try to be as positive as possible. And yes, they were at that age, and they were probably dealing with their own things, right? But now we're in this age, in this era, we have to start by thinking positive, speaking positive to children. Don't go into that, oh, he's a child, he won't remember. No, we do, right, Marlene? We
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, and stop saying to other adults with the when they do wrong. Oh, that's the way they are. No, that's not good enough.
Stop making the excuses. That's
Yeah,
just the way it is. Oh, that's how she is, or that's how he is. Well, I don't care. I had to stop, at home, Marlene, when people would say something to my kids, or in a negative way or whatever, I will jump up and say, no, 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 not in my house. As I started working on myself, I started identifying those little triggers, right, on me. And I will jump up and say, nope, not in my house. In my house, my kids and everybody's kids are treated differently. Or in my house, we're positive people. We're drama free. If you're not going to be able to do that, then you shouldn't be coming to my house. Not because you're older, I'm going to allow you to disrespect any of my kids, right? Or to do to
yeah.
them what you did to me. So once you start working on yourself, and you start understanding your brokenness, then you can start helping others that were in the same boat as you were.
Wow. You really said a mouthful. Really, that was really a mouthful. That's good, and that's where I want to leave. I want to leave everybody on a cliff. Leave you at the top of the cliff, and pick up where we left off. We're gonna pick up next week, same time, for the next discussion, talking about another very important topic. I got to say thank you so much for joining me today, and to everybody who's listening live or in the replay. Do you accept yourself? And if not, what are you going to do about it? Because that's why I do these shows, to talk about it and to find ways to help us to start getting into thinking, and to get into finding ways that we can help ourselves to heal from the wounds that has happened to us in our head, in our heart, and in our spirit. So thank you so much, Nexie, for joining me, and to everybody in the chat and everyone in the replay, all of you. Thank you to all you loves. Thank you for being a part of Love Marlene 411. I thank you all so very much. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.